Oh, YouTube. How the heck are you? I am Taylor. I'm going to adjust this. I have floofy hair. I went out tonight. I know you might be seeing this during the day or whenever. I usually drop it at 10:30 in the morning on Thursday my time, but I record it at other times. And I went to dinner. I had beverages. I have had alcohol. It was great. I was in public. I didn't wear a mask. I've been vaccinated. It almost feels like the world is starting back up again. So you realize about half of the people aren't vaccinated. They're not going to get vaccinated, and we're all morons, and we're going to have to do this all over again in about 6 months. But it's enough of that. It is, what's the date today? The 9th of June, 2021. This is the stack of comic books I read today. Some before drinking, some after. We'll see if that influences my decision. But yeah, this is my weekly comic book review show. It's sure to be the best ever, because I've had whiskey. Anyway, mostly good week. We're going to start with the worst. We always do. And yeah, it's not awful, but Children of the Atom number 4. I'm sure Vita Ayala can write a good book. I'm fairly convinced. This isn't it. I thought Children of the Atom was a miniseries, but it's reading like an ongoing, and it is a mess. It's teenagers that don't sound like teenagers. I mean, as far as I know, I don't really hang out with teenagers, but it just doesn't ring true. It's muddled storytelling, and I know I've said this before. I just keep up with it. I don't know why. Because I thought it was a mini. I thought it was going to end, but like now this whole issue is them like trying to figure out a way to sneak into the Hellions Ball, which is the dumbass ongoing XMen summer event thing, which is just stupid. And you know, stuff happens, but it's boring. Skip it, unless you really think every book's a spec book, and then you have to get them all. Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal number 2. Remember when Garth Ennis was good? Like Preacher? I mean, maybe time is like cast a fog of memory on me, and like, but I really enjoyed like especially the first half of the Preacher run in Vertigo Comics. I know I'm old, but I have hair. It's fluey, but I still have it, people. Then he decided everything has to be some kind of dumb joke ebook, and this is just some kind of dumb joke ebook. Interesting enough premise, like temporal crimes and all that, and sisters, one's good, one's sort of bad, and they're fighting each other. But it's just like through the lens of Garth Ennis. Maybe Amazon Prime will take it and ignore all the Garth Ennis-y crap and make a good series out of this. But it's, I don't know, it wasn't for me. Oh, right. X-Men number 21. This is Hickman's last issue on this. And I was like, oh, it'll be great. He's going with a bang. He's going to like set up some new revelations. He's going to talk about the Hellfire Club and throw in a lot of weird cameos like Feige and I think Patton Oswalt. I don't know. There's like a couple artists on this, and like the story doesn't jive well, but somewhat because of that, because every page seems like different artists. Also, what did he do in this run other than like get rid of Death and make Krakoa a thing? I mean, I get that's probably significant, but like I was expecting more. I was just expecting like some kind of like life-changing thing, and there's not that. There's just I don't know, a weirdly drawn Patton Oswalt and Kevin Feige wearing a hat. So if you want the first Kevin Feige in a comic, I think it's probably Kevin Feige. I don't care. All right, War of the Bounty Hunters, whatever. Star Bounty Hunters number 13. This is Valance versus C-3PO in a weird misunderstanding. I have a feeling it's not the first time it happened. I'm not caught up on all of the old Star Wars Marvel books, but Valance is one of those characters that, like, I don't know, was invented after the movies, and they were really trying to make into a thing. It's like that one, like, stop saying fetch. It's not going to be a thing. What was that movie? Mean Girls? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Stop saying Valance. It's not going to be a thing. Some new character shows up in here. Probably a new bad guy, but mad person. Probably. It's a spec book. My comic shop said limited to 1, so I had to grab 1 because it was limited to 1, and I don't know. Yeah, it's fine. It's a 6.0 book. The problem, again, bounty hunters, you know what's going to happen eventually. This is a story of what everyone's hunting for Boba Fett. Fett has to get Lando's, slabbity slab over to Jabba the Hutt. Eventually it's going to happen because it's part of the movies and it's canon and this is the journey, but it's just not that interesting. Good Asian. This actually is not bad. The thing is, it's in the middle of a noir story. So like I think I'm done collecting the singles on this because like I was a little bit lost and I don't have the energy to hunt down the first one to reread it. I just had too much going on today, and like it's one of those where like it requires concentration, and I think it's going to require a straight start to finish read. It's an interesting enough story, and I think it has a good handle on the noir aspect of it. And it's not a bad tale. It's just not meant for single issues. So, cool cover. Yeah, we're rearranging on the fly, people, because things are. I prepped for this. All right, Black Hammer Visions. This is Kelly Thompson. This is the Skull. I don't know. This is a thinly veiled what if Batman and Catwoman story. It's. I know I say the word competent too often, so I need to come up with a new word. It is adequate. Fine, it's fine. It's a fairy tale, but it's not like a newish story. It probably should have been like a Batman what if or a Batman like one off in those like Batman black and white stories. But it's just in a different universe, and they're using different archetypes or same archetype, just different characters in that archetype. And yeah, it's all right. I love the cover. One of my favorite covers of the week. It's weird and simple, and harkens back to the 30s and 40s. And what's his face? Who's I can't think of because I've been drinking. All right, Justice League: The Last Ride. Stuff happened in the past, and Batman and Superman don't get along, and they're gonna mess up the universe because of it. I like Zdarsky. I like him a lot. This is just not the strongest Zdarsky work. It's not bad. It's still better than a lot of the direct Marvel puts out, and it's a what if, which he's doing. We'll see. He's done another one this week. It's just they don't call it a what if. They just call it Elseworlds or something at DC. I don't know, whatever. And yeah, like it's just like what if the Justice League really messed up, and then they're having to like get together after that. I think it's going to go somewhere interesting. It just isn't there yet. Speaking of what ifs. Heroes Reborn! And speaking of Wonder Woman, not that I spoke of Wonder Woman, but she was on the cover of the last one. She didn't have much to do in there, but it's about her. This is the Wonder Woman substitute. Heroes Reborn. Squadron Supreme is basically the Justice League. They're Marvel's version of the Justice League. And what this does is says, hey, the Justice League heroes are all really very powerful. They're all more powerful than Marvel League. The Marvel League? Words, people. Words are hard. Words are hard after whiskey. This is basically, yeah, it's Jason Aaron playing around with the DC universe archetypes in the Marvel universe. And I know archetypes, that's the word of the day. But it's okay. The art by Erica Durso is probably the weak link in this. It's not horrible, but their art's just not fantastic. The cover's cool. I don't think that's her cover. It could be, but I could be wrong. And yeah, this is like the substitute Wonder Woman story. None of this. I get what Jason Aaron's doing. He's having fun, and I get the Heroes Reborn thing. It's just like what ifs. Just call it a what if. None of this is going to have consequences, and it's wearing a little thin. I wish it had a little bit more like B plot that actually said, "Hey, here's what the Heroes Reborn's actually going on." But there's not much there. I mean, this has more than most, and there's still not enough. It's just Wonder Woman being evil Wonder Woman. Nationalist Wonder Woman. Geiger, number 3. Pretty good issue. Mostly originistic. I don't know, but it's also a self-contained issue. I'm gonna look back at this one and regret I ever filmed this, folks. Yeah, I like this. I like Geiger. I know other folks have rated it a lot higher this week. I just think there's other more interesting books. This is decent in archetypes and competent. Those are my 3 words I keep reusing, but they fit. It's Jeff Johns, right? And he knows how to tell a story. He's not constrained by DC right now, so he can tell any story, and he's just making a new post-apocalyptic hero. He understands the context, the structure of a comic, the beginning, the end, and the middle, and how to weave a yarn in the middle. And it's woven. It's a yarn. It's great. It's not. It's good. Not great. Gary Frank's art, also good, not great. I think he's feeling a little rushed on this. Maybe, I don't know. Like Gary Frank on the monthlies, I've always had issues with. Like I think he needs a little more time to really breathe and let his art go. I'm along for the ride. I'm gonna keep reading Geiger. It's just there's other better books. It's not that on another week this would be higher up the list, but I enjoyed other ones better. Like for instance. That's not Eve. That's Wind, number 7. Wind is great. Wind, again, you could probably wait for the trades, but there's evil vampires, there's mutants, there's a snarky prince who's useless, who maybe should have a little more character growth by now. But it's an earnest tale. It's a straightforward fantasy yarn, and like James Tynan's having fun with it, and Michael Dialinus. Sorry, I apologize, Michael, for butchering your name. His art, it took a while to grow on me. Like, I wasn't sold. It was a little too cartoony, I thought, at first, but it really fits this story. And I think this would make a great animated series. And I don't necessarily always love talking about comics when they like how it would be translated into a different medium. It's a video for another day. But Wind is solid, and like better than I expected. The first issue, 7 issues ago, felt like a lifetime ago. It was a little slow, but since then, it's been a fun ride. I'm along for it. All right, Eve number 2. This is the case where the second issue is better than the first. The first didn't grab me. The first I thought was a pretty straightforward post-apocalyptic tale, which is, it's the flavor du jour, the soup of the day, as it will, in indie comics. And it is that, but there's an interesting enough spin on it. You learn a little bit more about the teddy bear. You learn more about Eve, and you learn a little bit more about the grand sort of hope that Eve brings, and why she's called Eve. It's a little on the nose with that, but art by Brittany Peer, top notch. The story by Jo Mi-kyung. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. This is better. This is, again, I try and give things 2 issues unless they really bug me. This has earned itself a 3rd, and I dig the cover. I like the cool. You throw anything behind a round glass thing, like make it look kind of like a deep sea diver. I'm sold. So, Rorschach number 9, Tom King, Jorge Fornes, Dave Stewart. Stuff's finally starting to roll into place. This is the Tom Kinginess of it all. It takes about 9 issues for you to realize, oh, that's kind of what's going on, and then maybe it's still not. He's playing in the the universe he's not supposed to be, the Watchmen universe, because, Alan Moore was like, please don't ever have nobody playing it. I'm done. But nobody listens to Alan Moore, because why would you respect a creator who had wishes when you own the property like DC? So, that aside, I like what Tom King's doing here. This is another one where you probably really should just wait for a selected issue. The covers, I think, are fantastic. I love this sort of abstract designy covers. They're my jam. And Jorge Fornes' art is simple and kind of reminiscent of the original artist on Watchmen, whose name escapes me right now, Dave Gibbons. Dave had probably more technical skill and put more thought into the panel composition and stuff than Jorge. It's hard to beat Dave's thought level on that one, I think. But I like that each issue is sort of focusing on a different character, or it kind of cycles back and forth. This character's been focused on a little bit before. I don't want to spoil it a whole lot, but you're sort of starting to realize what's going on with the actual plot of the book and the murder attempt of the presidential candidate. I feel like the pieces are falling into place. There's 3 issues to go, so they might not be. But yeah, Rorschach. I dig it. I dig it. How are we doing on this order? You know what? I'm going to move this. I'm moving it down. Yeah, that's right. The Joker, number 4, also featuring Punchline. The Punchline story I don't give a rat's ass about. I don't care about Punchline. I don't think it's a very interesting backup story. It's just not doing it for me. So, that said, the main story by Tynan and March, it's not this should just be called the Jim Gordon book, but people wouldn't buy it if it's called the Jim Gordon book. It's Jim Gordon hunting down the Joker and what happens therein. Of course, the Joker, does interact with Jim, and this is the first book where that really happened, the first issue where that really happens. There's She-Bane, or the daughter of Bane. There's other folks. This, again, I don't want to spoil a whole lot. I mean, it is sort of starting to become a little bit more of a Joker book, because the Joker actually is in this issue. He really wasn't in the other issues quite as much. And, like, Tynan's Joker in this feels a lot more evil than he does in his main Batman title, which I think is good. Like, this Joker is just dastardly, and Jim Gordon, you like the dialogue that Tynan writes, the internal dialogue for Gordon, it feels spot on. And yeah, like I did not expect much out of this at first, because Tynan's Batman bores the crap out of me. It really does. That Batman title is not doing it for me, but the Jim Gordon story is pretty great. And there's She-Bane. All right. There's a couple weird ones in this one, and this is one of them. But I enjoyed it, and it's making the list fairly high up. So we get six sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. This is Chuck Norris is a Chuck Norrisy asshole. So part of my language. I mean, we're a couple minutes in. So, whoops, I said asshole. And these are the people I had to work with them throughout the year. Somebody killed or Trigger Keaton, or Trigger Keaton killed himself. And either way, the sidekicks, as it were, the folks that have had to act with this person who is basically the Chuck Norris, step archetype. I was trying to avoid the word. I can't. These are the folks that had to interact with him throughout his career, the six sidekicks, as it were, and like they're going to have to probably solve this murder. There's not a lot of solving yet, and the art takes some getting used to. Chris Schweitzer's art is borderline too cartoony and borderline too simplistic to fit in here. It is kind of reminiscent of like the Dagwood Daily comics. I think is the best thing I can put my finger on as far as reference goes, but it's not quite there. Not quite that either. But yeah, this like grabbed me just enough to make it fairly high on the list. Like, maybe it's just because it's not post-apocalyptic and it's involving somebody killing Chuck Norris. So, what's not to like on that one? All right. So yeah, Spider-Man, Spider Shadow number 3. Look, I remember Zdarsky. What if? This is the Marvel What If. This is much better than the DC What If. This is What If, like. Spider-Man held on to the Venom suit, the symbiote, instead of giving it to Eddie Brock. And Eddie Brock is in here, interacts differently. This is, it's a what-if tale the way it should be. Like, you don't have to, I think what-ifs probably will be better served, because I think this is, I don't know how many issues. I hear different stories. I thought it was 8, maybe 12, maybe 6. I don't know, whatever. It's enough room for a story to be told. The old what if stories, they had all wrap up in one issue. So, you didn't have a lot of time for, the story to develop. And this, you have story developing. There's J. Jonah Jameson. There's the Sinister Six, kind of. There's, Spider-Man. And then, there's consequences in here that are, pretty brutal. The art by Ferry, I can't remember the first name. It took a while for me to grab onto this, too. I didn't actually like it as much as Chris Schweitzer's art, and I don't love it. But Zdarsky's writing on this is strong enough for me to kind of make up for it. So, all right, Proctor Valley Road, number 4. I think this is the penultimate issue. Feels like it should be. I feel like saying that. I think there's only one more left. Maybe not. Maybe I can't. One of these days I'll actually do research ahead of time. But I'm reading so many damn books. It's just I try to treat each issue on its own merits, but it's sometimes hard to do, and this is one of those cases where it's a little hard to do. Grant Morrison and Alex Child, their story, they're telling a very interesting story, and it's a horror story, and it's like a what if things. Some horror stories turn out to be real, and how folks would react to that in the 70s, but a little cartoony, a little high schooly. I really like this. Alex Child gets second billing on the cover, but first billing in the books. I think Alex Child has kind of taken over the heavy lifting. First billing on the inside, I mean. And I really want to see where this wraps up, or where it heads next. This is kind of a filler issue. Not a ton happens here, maybe a little dialogue heavy, but I'm hooked enough that, I get that little bit of excuse. It doesn't feel like a wasted issue. But I think maybe a little more could have happened in here. That said, it's still pretty good. This is a pretty good week for comics, folks. These last two, this one I probably should have moved down a little bit, but that's fine. Same artist on both of those, Andrea Moody. So there's that. We got Maniac NY number 5. This is the end of the first arc. And my big issue with this is it's treated as the end of the first arc instead of the end of a story. I think Aftershock does these 5-issue stories, and if they're good, they get picked up or whatever, and then they do 5 more. There should have been a stronger ending on this, and this is I almost felt like I missed an issue of this as far as where this started and where it ended. But it's still, I think, a satisfying enough conclusion to the first arc. And I think because it's dealing with a serial killer in the Jason Voorhees type, you can't really have a wrap up anyways. So you can't just kill Jason Voorhees, otherwise the story's over. So it still grabbed me, and I know it grabbed me more than I think it did a couple other reviewers this week. And yeah, and I know people are complaining it's just a Jason Voorhees knockoff. That's kind of the point of this, though. And it's sort of like trying to fit Jason Voorhees into a real political-ish world. And I think they're doing a very, like, I think L.A. Kalin is doing a very, and Taylor Esposito and Andre Moody are doing a very effective job of it. And yeah, I'm enjoying this. All right, this one was my last book, and it is my favorite book of the week. But I want to put some caveats here. Did I mention whiskey? Also, this is just weird. But it's Andre Moody's art, and Andre Moody's art is fantastic. Maniac in New York. Paul Tobin is right, and Taylor Esposito. I'm seeing some similarities. The story is bizarre. It's a bizarre sort of child kidnapping that might or might not be real, and like the effects like 10 years later, and a character that might have rescued these kidnapped people. I'm trying not to do spoilers. It's a strange tale, and that's probably why it's my pick of the week, because it's like it has enough in here where I'm definitely like I am gonna read issue 2, and I'm looking forward to it, and like the character design and everything else, it's like, yeah, I really want to know what's going on with the characters that are set up and what in the heck really is happening. But it is weird, folks. It is just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if it's good, but it's my book of the week, if that makes sense. If you've read this, let me know. Leave a comment down below. And if you buy this based on my recommendation and you hate it, I'm sorry. I know like some folks have like really started to like to not take my word as gospel, because that'd be terrifying. But I know some folks like really like these reviews, and that makes me feel great and all that. But this one, it's probably my oddest pick of the week. I mean, this is the B cover. The A cover is also great. Probably my favorite covers of the week. Yeah, I don't want to talk a whole lot about it, which is bad if I'm doing reviews, right? But yeah, there's a demented father. There's teeth getting knocked out. There's an art exhibit. There's a trapped detective. It's a lot going on, and it's none of the threads are really tying together yet. But the way the fabric is getting woven has me interested enough that I'll keep it up. So all right, there you have it, folks. I'll probably have less whiskey next week, but the world's back open, and I had something like, I don't know, I had sorbet and a champagne float, and trout stuffed inside tiny little raviolis. It was delicious. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good day. Have a good night. Whatever. Don't be a dick, and don't wear a bunny mask in public. Actually, yeah, go ahead. Wear a bunny mask in public. Whatever. You do you.